Richard Jones, Ron Ortiz.
Here.
Dr. Guy Shambo.
Present. There's a quorum. Adoption of agenda. Motion made by Bob Hayes. Oh, where you at?
Explain to me, B and C, they be in action items. And I'm sure I'm just, maybe I'm just,
Wait a minute.
sure in the reading of them.
Hold on a second. See the A. Well, first one, A, is superintendent's resignation.
No, just B and C.
Just B and C.
They're discussions, not considerations, is my question there.
Discuss on 4A and B, right? Those are discussions.
Just B and C, under the action items, I'm just curious why B and C are action items.
They are not to be action items. Let's amend the motion. Let's amend the agenda. So we would amend the agenda to, go ahead.
So I'll make it a motion that we,
I'll rescind mine.
it doesn't matter, we have a second, so.
No second.
I wanna, let's just talk about, we're gonna take B and C out of the action column, and we'll just do the discussions. And I make a motion, we accept the agenda as amended.
So that would be A's, making sure I understand, A is action item, D is an action item, E is an action item. Is there a second to that motion?
Just for clarity, do you want to keep those discussion items down after the action items?
No,
Doesn't matter.
To me, they're fine, just as long as they're not,
yeah,
on the.
it was a formatting. I did not explain it to her carefully.
Like,
So, because when we did this, it was, yeah, so it should have been another Roman numeral than discussion and those then.
But if you wanna go in this order, that's fine too,
Yeah,
we're just not taking action.
Let's leave the order as it is because it works. Roll call.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Guy Shambo.
Yes. Motion carries. Agenda has been amended. Let's proceed to action item A, which is consideration of and accept resignation of the superintendent.
I make a motion, we approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Bob was by Richard Jones. Seconded by Ron Ortiz. Any discussion?
If you say no, does he have to stay?
Well, motion has been made and seconded. Roll call.
Robert Hayes,
Aye.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Guy Shambo.
Yes. Mr. Pettis, thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank
It
you.
was ever since 2018, I believe, or 19, can't remember which year.
2019. Yep. Right. That puts a finale to it. I mean, yeah, but
Yes.
that's all right. We'll keep it going.
Yeah, this is a motion that was, you informed us of your intention, and the letter is what we have approved, and that letter states there are no conditions other than to be to the end of the term of June 30th. And we do thank you. We know that you have performed excellently. Your evaluations have been very good. And we wish you well in whatever endeavors you seek to have in the future.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you all. Appreciate it. It's bittersweet, the good part is it's been 44 years in the business and I think, all together when you count and add it all up, but it's difficult because, and I think I shared this last time, put together such a good team, have some very good things going. We're on an upward trajectory. That's when it makes it very difficult to pull away. And but on the flip side of that, it's also the best time in the world to make the shift and pass the baton. I want to wait till things are looking downward before you make a move like this. I appreciate that. I appreciate you all, and I hope that you all will understand that this is it's just another chapter, and I don't always think of myself first, and I will do everything I can to see that help with this process, however I'm needed. Make sure that we get kicked off and springboarded into a new chapter for the district, and hopefully we'll keep that same trajectory going. We're kicking off good in many different ways. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, so just I've only worked with you on the board for just a short period of time, but we've worked for many years with regards to what we've done for the school system. I'm very appreciative of your time and efforts as our superintendent.
Thank you much.
Yeah, good luck. Wherever you go.
Appreciate it, Richard.
Same thing, Max. Thank you
Yeah.
for your service.
It's good friends.
Yeah. It's. Yeah. Let's, with those comments, let's move on to the next agenda item. Discussion, search process for hiring a new superintendent and retention of third-party search consultant to assist the board. And discuss setting up the time frame, et cetera, et cetera. What I've done, board members, is to, once we had met the previous time, I proceeded to explore what options we had, and I talked with New Mexico School Board Association and Gogan, and he said they had a search team, a superintendent search team in place, a program that we could avail ourselves of their services. And so then he referred me to Mr. Sullivan, or he referred my inquiry to Mr. Sullivan, and Mr. Sullivan gave me a call, and we talked for a bit, and then we continued the discussions during the last week. And it was based upon what I could see of their resumes, and their resumes are here in front of me. They are extensive. They do have experience with conducting these types of searches. And I felt it was in our best interest to have us utilize the services, and that's where we're at today. And on Friday, Tom Sullivan and Linda Paul of the search service of NMSBA, we talked and explored what direction we were going to take, and I informed them that we have a time crunch. We have to do this in a shorter period of time. The previous time was we took several months to get this done, and we don't have that luxury. So we have to. So they are aware, and what they would seek to do tonight is to make a proposal. And you see a PowerPoint there in front of you, and there's some other documents here in front of us also we can make use of to see if we can get started. And once we initiate this discussion and we get through through these 2 points, we will then go to the next motion, entertain the action on the selection and retention of the search service at that time, which would also include the qualifications at that. So let's see how far we can go. And Mr. Sullivan, I think there's Mr. Ortiz and myself, Mr. Hayes, and Mr. Jones. And Mr. Hayes being the young recruit. So welcome to our, he's done a great service for us here. But we've been involved with this before, but we also recognize that we're not able to do it ourselves. And we do need professional support to do this. And therefore, we will entertain your participation, and welcome to this evening's efforts. I would like you to initiate it and introduce Linda Paul. And Linda, you can say a few words too. Mr. Sullivan.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President, members of the board. Mr. Perez, congratulations. And Ms. Sandoval, thank you very much for your help already. And I'm sure I'm going to be a pest before this is all over too. First of all, you guys should be congratulated. Your stability as board members and with your superintendents is somewhat remarkable throughout the state. I don't know if you've paid much attention to that, but if you back out a couple of anomalies like Sue Cleveland in Rio Rancho and Travis Lightfoot over in Corona, the life expectancy of superintendents in New Mexico is probably about 2 years. And I think it's important for student success that there is stability in the district. So you've had it, and I think the successes that you've achieved are due to that. And I suspect that that's what you're looking for moving forward. So thank you for the opportunity to serve. You may suspect that it's going to take 2 of us to replace Dr. Prather. And I know that he assisted you folks in the search that resulted in Mr. Perez coming here. We were reminiscing before the meeting. We've known each other for a long time. Dr. Prather and I have known each other even longer. I've known Dr. Prather for over 40 years. He was an instructor at UNM when I was completing my administrative program, and we've remained friends since. But I'll certainly let Dr. Paul introduce himself, but the program that Mr. Guillen and Dr. Prather put together is one that Linda and I have used quite a bit. We've both done searches for a number of districts, both large and small, throughout the state. We've structured it pretty much identically to Dr. Prather's model that Mr. Guillen and the School Boards Association have blessed. And I think you've probably seen the full-blown presentation. We've kind of jumped ahead. You've decided that you wanted to go external and not use one of the national firms, because we think that we can provide insights into New Mexico that will be helpful to you, frankly. But as I say, we have between us probably done a dozen or more searches within the state. We were also involved in creating what's called in our lingo, the Aspiring Superintendents Academy. And I think Mr. Perez was one of our early alumnus from that program. I think we're in cohort 13 or 14 of that model, and some 40 or 50 superintendents have come out of that preparation program. So Dr. Prather and I are also very, very proud of that. And again, I hope that that gives you some sense of our ability to reach out to people throughout the state that we've seen grow and be ready for these kinds of roles in districts like Grants. But at any rate, I'll let Dr. Paul introduce herself and maybe tell you a little bit about where we're going to try to bring you this evening. We have some samples that was sent to you. I brought a couple of other handouts so that you're not working with a blank page as we start to talk about the characteristics that you might want to see in a successful candidate, what an advertisement might begin to look like, where you might want to advertise it and such. But I'll let Dr. Paul start there, and then we can start taking a look at some of those things.
Dr. Paul.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Linda Paul, and I'm a recovering superintendent. And so I'm helping others across the state do superintendent searches. So as Tom mentioned, we've done many independently, and Tom and I have known each other for a long time and have a long history of working together. So I think it's going to be pretty smooth to have both of us at the helm. In the interest of transparency, I have a knee replacement surgery scheduled for April 11. So that's part of the tag team that Tom and I are going to do, so that you, as the board, always have coverage. You always have someone that you can turn to or call or refer someone to. So I plan on being active before and after my surgery, but I just wanted to.
And my wife just had a pacemaker installed, so I wasn't sure how flexible I was going to be. That was the other reason I wanted to be sure we could tag team this for you, but it in no way affected the price quote.
Price, no. No.
You.
We did not. We priced the search as if there was only one of us. So we'll figure out the back end finances. What we want to do is just make sure that we meet your needs. And the beauty of hiring Tom and I as part of the NMSBA cadre is that A, we have lots of experience, and B, we customize it to meet your needs. So in speaking with Dr. Archambault this week and last week, I think Tom and I have a better idea of your timeline and your sense of urgency, which I support in terms of getting this process going. So I don't know if you're able to project the PowerPoint, but that it looks like you all have. Oh, Max, is that true? Superintendent Perez, we can project that?
We can, do you have it on your, do we have a copy of it here?
I have one. I can email you.
Yeah, it'll take us a few minutes to set it up, but. I'll have
Oh,
her email-
okay. If everyone has hard copies, then let's just use the hard copies.
Okay. Is that good?
Is that right? Okay, good. Yeah, rather than, yeah, perfect. Okay. So I'm gonna turn the mic back over to Tom here in a minute, but what's before you in that PowerPoint is really a summary of the whole process from tonight all the way to the point where you hire a new superintendent and then learn to work with that new superintendent. So that's the process kind of in a nutshell. I'll turn the mic over to Tom so he can take you through step by step. But again, if there's any piece in here that you're not comfortable with, we sure can talk about that. But at the end of the day, you're the school board and you will make the decision about a new superintendent. So anyone that you invite to help you with this process, we'll learn that. We'll know that in no uncertain terms, that it's the board that makes this decision, not anybody else. Although I think there's a really strong argument to be made to include some community and or staff members in the process as well. So with that, Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
You have both the PowerPoint with a reference to the timeline that says that we wanted to conclude it by May 16th, but you also have this other sheet that's not in the PowerPoint that breaks it out more clearly. We were shooting for May 16th because that was already a scheduled board meeting for you. And we believe that you'll be able to conduct interviews in the morning, review the results of those interviews throughout the afternoon, and then make a decision in executive session that evening. And we were also looking to avoid special meetings for you if it's possible, to work around your existing schedule when we could. And as Linda pointed out, and in respect to things we'd already heard from Board President Archambault, you were also looking for this on an accelerated time frame so that if possible, the successful candidate could transition with Mr. Perez for a period of time in June, with the idea that that person would then be up to speed to take over individually on July 1st. Now, how you would compensate the double business in June would be, that's entirely up to you guys. But we had talked about a possible transition for a period of time in June, thus trying to get this condensed the way we proposed on that sheet. And I know that there seems to be a disconnect with us saying it's an 8-step process on one page and a 7-step process on the other. What we have often done as an 8th step is offer boards a follow-up to support the board through the development of expectations and on into an evaluation process for a successful candidate. But that's getting a little bit presumptuous, so we not necessarily wanting to cloud the waters tonight with you on that, but it's something we can certainly consider and discuss with you later. But at any rate, that's the things we would hope to be able to get through tonight and through the rest of this PowerPoint are there on the agenda. The timeline, what the advertisement might start looking like. Linda's got the technology set up to have a place for all the applicants' materials to come through, and then for you to access that material as well. Linda, would this be a good time for you to talk a little bit about that? The technology backup stuff.
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things that we do is set up a dedicated email account strictly for this superintendent search. As long as we get those applications, then you don't have to release all of them to the public because they're coming to us. So it's a best practice to do that. Once you identify the finalists, then that has to be made public, of course. But up until that time, I kind of monitor those applications as they come in. And if someone has forgotten a resume or someone has forgotten something else, I can, email them and let them know to do that. But this way, again, it's very clean. God forbid there's a problem down the road. I have beautiful documentation that this is the email address, this is who I reached out to, this is who returned an application, et cetera, et cetera. And so all of our work product will belong to the school board. But in the meantime, we keep a hold of those applications and any of the other artifacts. And then when the time is right, we'll release them to you and to the district. So that's one of the things that we do. We also use, I have my own Zoom account. So if we need to set up a quick meeting and the district is not willing or is unavailable to set up a meeting, I can certainly do that with Zoom for all of us. So other than that, I run the back end. I do the paperwork. I do all the checking and making sure that everyone is licensed and, all those hundreds of little details that need to be paid attention to. We sure will pay attention to all of those.
If you look on page 3 of your packet, we've kind of jumped and been talking a little bit about 4 and 5 there, but the keys, and we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get into the next pages, but I want to call your attention specifically to item 2 and start you thinking about that. To what degree do you want staff and community engagement? We've worked in the past, perhaps with larger districts, Carlsbad or Farmington as an example, with multiple committees that those school boards wanted to solicit input from. They had a business and community leadership committee. They had an administrative committee. They had a staff committee, both certified and non-certified staff combined. And they had a parent committee. And board members were nominating people to be on those committees. And I'm not suggesting that you have that many at all, but I would suggest that Grants is a large enough community with a diverse enough constituent group of stakeholders that you would be well advised to engage your stakeholders in some form. And we're going to talk about that more later. And I want to get through the program, but I think we've got to come back to that. So I'd ask you please to be thinking about it. If you think about that and you agree, then we're probably going to ask you for several names from the community, and probably more than we would put on a committee. Committees can get unwieldy if you have too many on it. Maybe more than we would actually use, so that if somebody bails or can't meet the times that we would be meeting, we'd have a backup. We would want you to reach out to them first so that our contact with them wasn't a cold call. So, I think they would be flattered. Any community member that I've ever talked to that was asked by a board member, you're calling them and saying, hey, I don't know whether you've heard yet, but our superintendent just retired and we're in the process of looking for a new one. And we'd like you to be part of that process by giving us, serving in an advisory capacity and sitting in an interview group. Think about that for a moment. Now, I will tell you right up front, their role will be clearly explained to them It will be advisory. They will not rank your candidates and try to push you into a corner of any kind. I'll promise you that. We will get you feedback from committees, but they will not rank the candidates. Linda, do you want to jump in on that at all?
Yes, I do. Sorry, I muted my mic. So there's, I fully support the use of committees. Like Tom said, I think kind of the most popular model right now has been one or two committees. One being a mixed committee of community members and school staff, or two, meaning one from the school district or one school staff and one community members. And so again, you're the nominations committee. So if you would like to do that, we can go forward with that. The other piece that I've used from time to time is also a community survey. And we send the link basically to the district and ask that you push that out. And it asks for some information about strengths of the school district, strengths of that you're looking for in a new superintendent candidate, et cetera. So I can sure provide you with a sample of that, but that's very easy to do as long as the district cooperates and gets it pushed out, you know, to parents and to Power School and all of those great, often to your Chamber of Commerce and all the other folks in the community you'd like to include. So that's another option for community involvement to coming in. But as Tom said, we use a very structured feedback form during the interviews. So again, they're really tunneled into giving us good feedback, not just, I like this person, I don't like that person, but everyone is looked at and their strengths and opportunities for improvement are clearly noted for you.
Let me make sure where we're at on the process tonight. You mentioned number 2, and we've got some more points to be discussed. Do you want us to discuss that now, or do you want to proceed through the?
I want to proceed and maybe then come back to
Okay.
it, because I think we're going to give you some other things that might help in highlighting why we're, I don't want to say pushing that idea, but
That's all right. Let's just go ahead and continue through it.
if you go to the next page, the initial work session with the Board of Education, which is where we are now. The first 3 sections of that, one bullet point, not bullet points, but numbers 1, 2, and 3 are what we really need to be talking about now. And I think Dr. Paul sent you some examples of some of that you probably already have in your packet. I brought at least one other handout to address that, and I think I have enough for everybody as well.
See what we got. Before we do that, let's see what we have. Some things here.
Those are the sample set.
There's a superintendent of school application form. There's a superintendent search announcement form, Aztec search form, Cimarron. Wow, Cimarron's brand new, fresh.
Mhm. I'm working with Cimarron right now. We're interviewing finalists on Monday, actually.
Do you have the one that says Grand Cibola County Schools seeks an exceptional educational leader?
Yes.
Okay, well, the one that I just handed out is related to that. It's a kind of an abbreviated form, but it gives you an idea of desired characteristics for an advertisement. And then I've got another one that if we're paying for ads, you don't want to be terribly wordy. If we're getting freebies, you can be a little bit more precise, I guess. But this was an example of something that I just poached and plugged in your information. Well, I haven't plugged in your information. Actually, we're going to find having to hear from you about salary ranges
I know you've got about 3,000 students. I didn't find out yet what your operating budget is. Timeline, we pretty well set down. Item 5 is the one I just asked you to be thinking of. Item 6 on that page, it would help us immensely if there was a single point of contact. And if that is going to be your board president, then I understand that Ms. Sandoval serves as the administrative assistant for both the superintendent and the board. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because that makes things so much easier for us if there are multiple people that we're trying to triangulate with.
Okay.
But again, as Linda pointed out, if there are any things that come up that we need to get in touch with somebody and pull something together on the fly. And as she said, she can pull a Zoom together pretty quickly, but you guys still have 3-day notice requirements unless there's one individual that's authorized to speak on your behalf on short notice, and then we can work through Ms. Sandoval for things like that as well.
Okay.
But that would be something for you all to decide among yourselves, and so far, the only person I've spoken to has been Board President Rochambeau. Linda, I think you've suggested that they use their district application form, or do you suggest a?
That's a good question. What we sent you was a sample application that we've used in other places that is more targeted specifically for a superintendent position. We are more than happy to use the district application process if that's your desire. Like I said earlier, if we keep those applications ahead of time before you identify your finalists, then they don't have to be released to anyone yet until you make that decision. So whatever form we use, whether we use your form or whether we use our form, it's okay, as long as we've got some certain things in there. Number one, we always ask for a writing sample. We can ask for a writing sample right there in the application where someone would have some time to prepare, and or we can ask for a writing sample the actual day of the interview. So you can see what that person can do kind of on the fly or in the spur of the moment in terms of writing. So I think that's an important piece because your superintendent is going to need to communicate in writing and verbally. And so it's a good idea to kind of see their communication style up front. The other thing I like to ask is the reason for leaving their last job. You and I both know that there are a ton of reasons that superintendents leave school districts. Some retire, like Superintendent Perez. Some are sent out. Some are kicked out. There's a variety. So I always like to ask for the reason why they're leaving their last district or have they left their last district. And that doesn't mean it's an automatic red flag. It means we need to pay attention to that a little bit more and figure out what happened. So those are two important parts. The other important part is the last page of the application, and that is the release. So, and again, in order to make it very transparent, we're telling the applicants, we're going to do reference checks on you. We're going to do reference checks on people that you give us their names, and we're going to do reference checks on others. And that's part of the strength that Tom and I bring to the table, is that we know a lot of people in New Mexico, and chances are someone we know has worked with one of your applicants or knows somebody who did. And so we use our own networks as well to make sure that there's not something unfavorable in somebody's background that you don't want to be surprised to learn later on down the road. So again, I don't have a dog in that fight. You can use our application. We can modify our application. We can use your application as long as we get the information that you need to make a good decision about the new superintendent. So the application is no more than a vehicle to get you that good information. So with that being said, what I typically do is once we advertise, once we set up the designated email, as people are interested, I ask them to contact us at that designated email. And then we will send out the application and the marketing material that we'll put together for your district as well. So that they have all the information up front. They know what we want, they know when we want it. And I can monitor it. We can monitor it from the back end also.
And we're gonna get to that marketing material next. That's step 3. But let me just add something to what Linda was mentioning about references. I'll be brutally honest, I have never written nor read a bad reference letter. So her point about us having enough contacts, at least if they are in-state applicants, I probably wouldn't call unless they're friends of mine, listed references. I'm more likely to look at where the person has been and say, oh, I know somebody that worked there in that period of time. I'm more likely to call that person rather than the person that's listed if I think I'm gonna get a more honest answer.
Yes. Just so I'm up to date, or just say, like, I love this application. From some municipal schools. I mean, we have to just change a few things to make it grants. But, and if I'm right, and maybe this is school number 3, we have to preface that with what we're requiring before. Correct?
To
The more.
For it to suit you, yes.
Or to suit us.
Yes.
So what we're gonna do here is go through these different requirements and make our own basically, right? Which I like.
Maybe not tonight because we have an idea for you.
Okay.
And then we would come
I
back.
didn't mean to get in front.
No, it's a great question.
You know, what he's saying is that we custom tailor it to us. And this form is pretty succinct.
Yeah, I love the application.
Okay.
It kind of fits.
But we still have to come up with this one.
That is correct.
Okay.
And in some format, what Linda and I were talking about is, she was talking about that Survey Monkey idea. We were thinking that you guys should take some time after you've kind of digested a wealth of information you're going to get here in the next while. Take a couple of days, however much time you think after we visited with you here. Linda will send you something to get your responses, and then we'll merge the most frequent ideas that come back from you and send you back a draft. And next week, we would bring you a draft of that advertisement and that form that would reflect what you responded to in the survey, so that we would merge the ideas from you guys based on samples and ideas that you got from us or yourselves between now and the day we said, get these ideas back to us.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Linda, you want to jump on that?
Thank you so much for identifying that there are questions in there, and that was tailored for Cimarron. Those may not be the questions you want to ask, and that's perfectly okay. We'll need to, again, we'll recommend that you ask some questions, but let's customize it to Grant Cibola. We just wanted to provide you with some samples to look at. We're not saying that these are finished products or this is what we'll use, but it's sometimes easier to see the documents than to try to imagine them off the top of your head.
And the other thing I'd say about the questions that Linda was talking about that we asked them to respond to, I also want them to answer something that we don't even know if somebody else wrote them, if they just send them in like that. But I like asking them to do something on the fly. And it's going to be a scenario that they're not going to have seen before. They're going to respond to something that I know they're going to have to be doing it themselves.
Right.
In fact, if we have time and there aren't too many applicants, I even like to have I like to have them react to a role play situation. You know, a mad parent demanding to see the superintendent. Never had that happen, did you, Max?
I get it, and I'm all for that. Where I was. All right, so there's different, here's a draft. Superintendent, advertisement, desired characteristics. Well, one here that I believe you didn't. Love this. There's some redundancy there.
Probably.
And well, I just mean minimum 2 years experience in a principal, and I'm 100% for that. Then right below that, 2 years district level administrative experience, that's redundant. If he's 2 years principal, he's 2 years district level experience, you know,
Uh,
irrelevant.
that might mean central office.
No, because that's further down here too.
Okay.
So
And
we're
then,
saying,
then we
Cleaned it up.
Yeah, well, I think, then there's some ambiguity in there. Where requirements, I don't know if they're requirements or we want knowledge of,
Yeah, we need to decide.
but I know we're not doing that today.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just saying.
These are samples for you guys.
Together and decide what's,
And that's what we would end up doing the next meeting. We would finalize that
that's what.
so that.
You guys are gonna get a chance individually to look at some of this and see which of the ones that resonate more for you. And where you agree with each other, that's the sweet spot that we really want to see.
Then shoot those off to you. We'll send the,
That's
we'll
correct.
we'll
That's
send our
correct.
feedback to you.
But Linda's gonna kind of poll you a little bit so that it's not just a free-for-all responses.
Okay.
That's where I'm getting.
Does that work?
That's What I was going.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring us together on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And it can I move on to step 3 real quick?
Please move on.
No, that's nothing to be sorry about. This is excellent. Here's, and I'm sorry that we're using other districts as example, but they're fairly current. This was Farmington last year. Now, it was Glitz here. I didn't, this was nicely done, but this is black and white. I'm sorry.
Well, we can't have that.
Well. I think it almost cost as much to, if I just printed yours in black, it would have cost as much to print it in color. You got so much black in your. PowerPoint.
Yeah, I didn't know where we were projecting, so.
But anyway, I don't know whether you guys have anything like this, a promotional brochure. This was a trifold. This was a trifold. And there was still some fill in the blanks things, but we worked with folks from the district, from the community, to put together the things that they thought they were proud of. And that was an attachment for candidates. We didn't know what people from where might have any knowledge, a great deal or a little bit about Farmington, New Mexico. And so some of this came from the chamber, some of it came from, the technology director, because that person was helping us with the layout. But we could engage and interact with you, with staff, with community, if you were interested in having something like this as part of the packet that applicants would get when they requested it. Now, tighter timeline, Mr. President, so it may not be something that we can do this go round, but I wanted you to see some of the things that we've done. You had something like that for yours as well, I think, Linda, didn't you?
Sorry, I keep muting my microphone. Yes, in fact, I think you have a copy of the Cimarron one. It has the logo of Cimarron right in the front. That was really recent. That was written in January. And I worked closely with the chambers and the Visitors Bureau up in that neighborhood. So again, we want to produce a product that you're proud of, that you can use not only for this search, but if you needed to use it for other purposes, you sure could.
We're certainly not trying to promote some other district's materials. We're
No.
simply giving you samples and ideas so that you wouldn't be working from a blank page tonight. Yes, sir.
Got another one. This is now. From the last go round.
well,
I got it right here.
Ah,
Excuse me. I don't need a hip replacement. I need a hip rejuvenation of some sort. This is one we used last week, the single sheet. Okay, this is food for thought too. I get this to you. Awesome.
I think as I've been talking through this, we may have even sort of touched on, actually Linda's talked through some of this already as well. Some of the ideas in steps 3, 4, and 5, and I'm kind of glad about that because I feel like I'm droning on and taking up your time this evening.
You're taking up our time this evening.
But, you know, if I just kind of slid past step two, because I do want to come back to that, as I said, that staff and community engagement piece, which I asked you to give some more thought to, but as you look at, you know, step three, development and promotion of material and finalizing the job application, that's what we just talked about. That's what Mr. Jones was inquiring about. I think you have a better handle on where that might go and how it might look. Step four, advertise and manage applications. Dr. Paul explained to you how we would manage the applications. The advertisement is, again, we've been giving you some samples, give you an idea of what things might look like. Linda, you want to talk about where advertisements might go and what you experienced with recent costs and
Sure.
feedback you've gotten from the sources and such?
Great. I'd love to. So what we usually recommend, of course, is advertising with the New Mexico School Boards Association and with the New Mexico Coalition of Educational Leaders. So those are services that are offered for free. We want to take advantage of those. They've been super responsive to get them out for us. The other place that I've looked is into Colorado, to the Colorado Association of School Executives, and they charge $50 for a 30-day ad. And again, it's electronic. So is the School Boards Association and the NMCEL groups. But in today's day and age, that's where people are looking for jobs, is online. I also have advertised nationally with AASA, the Association for School Superintendents at the national level. And that runs just under $1,000 for a 30-day ad. But that's also electronic, that's also nationwide. And they put it out frequently during that 30 days. I contacted the Journal, the Albuquerque Journal, back in the beginning of February. And I have to confess that they were not the easiest vendor to work with in my experience. And they came back with a price of over $2,000. And I thought, for what? So I wound up not advertising there, but that's certainly an option that I could pursue and negotiate more with them if we need to try to get that cost down. But those are, and then Tom has some great contacts in neighboring states also. So we can reach out to Arizona, we can reach out to Texas, we can reach out to Utah and work with them to advertise as well. So it's really your decision whether you want to advertise locally, meaning just in New Mexico, whether you want to advertise regionally and include some neighboring states, or you want to advertise nationally. To be honest with you, in the last search I did, we received 2 from AASA, and they're both finalists. They were great applications. And from the state, we received some really, really, really good ones as well. Superintendent Perez?
Doesn't NMASPO do this and advertise?
Yes, and that would be a freebie. That was the one she was talking about. Our coalition and Mr. Gaines' organization will post for
Not
free.
the NIMS, but the school board, school business officials.
Oh,
Oh.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant school boards association, business officials. And thought of that.
And then just a comment, I think in my experiences, Albuquerque Journal has been the least effective and
I think that's what you were just saying.
Facebook has been the most effective. And we're trying to get up.
And
Let me ask these folks here, Linda, for a second. Where do you advertise board meetings and such?
Through social media.
I'm sorry,
Social media.
but don't you have to have a place where you're posting for
post it
legal
here.
purposes?
And emails,
Which paper?
emails a lot. There's part of it.
Civil business.
So that would I guess I'm wondering, do you use the Gallup paper, or the Navajo Times, or anything like that? Would those be places that you need to advertise for even public relations issues?
We can use the Navajo Times because it is distributed through this area all the way down to into the eastern side of.
I'm not trying to talk you into anything. I'm just
No,
kind of asking.
Yes, well, we do what we use our local media to disseminate along with the new technology that she's talking about disseminating. And so we do that. However, I would suggest that you use Annapolis Times because it does have a wide readership amongst those who are.
If they're gonna hold you hostage the way the Albuquerque Journal is, I don't know that I'd recommend it, but if.
What are the New Mexican, what about the universities? Universities,
On their,
with their
bulletin boards.
education ed admin departments.
I have.
I could try. They haven't had a process in place in the past, but that doesn't mean they don't have a process now. So I'd be happy to check with the universities here in New Mexico.
I don't want to get it too difficult. I want us basically to, my suggestion, board members, that we look at regionally with maybe some national,
No. Again, that would be a decision that you folks would need to make and.
we can
let
make that at the
us
next
know.
board meeting as we decide. So you could make a listing of those that we
And we, can we get a list and some costs for them?
Yes, I'm taking notes. And so, yes, we will have that ready for you next week for sure.
Okay.
The other, I'm sorry, Mr. Sullivan, there's one other piece that I failed to mention, but Lorraine did, and that is we'll also use the district website and we'll use your district Facebook page. So with cooperation of the district, we can do the draft, the copies, and then give it to the district and ask that you post them on your sites as well. And if you have a Twitter account or you have anything else, we would ask that be posted there as well.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. We would also, well, we would do screening to find those that met your qualifications. There are some folks that apply. There are some folks that are, I forget what we call them, professional applicants. They will apply for jobs that they don't even have the qualifications for to see if we're smart enough to notice that, I guess. But so we're not going to waste your time with that. But we would want you to have access to the qualified applicants to be part of that winnowing down to those that you want to invite to be finalists. And so that is built into the schedule. So you would be part of that, but we would do we'll do the other work on that. We'll do the background checks and all of that candidate notification. Thank you for your interest and sorry, it didn't work out, whatever, but you wouldn't have to worry about any of those kinds of things. However, we would bring you the materials of qualified applicants to help us get down to those that you actually want to bring in for a formal interview on that May 16th morning and see where we are. Okay.
And the truth is that you'll have access to everything. It's your property, so to speak. But like Tom said, what the value add that we bring is that we sort them for you so that anybody that's not qualified goes in one pile, everybody who is goes in another, and then you decide from there. And I've had boards pull off of the I don't think so list. They've met the qualifications, but the board really liked them, and that's totally okay. It's your hire, not ours. So we'll work with you around access to those applications, all of them.
And to use the expression, we don't have a dog in the fight. And that's exactly correct. It needs to be a fit for you and your community.
Yes, absolutely.
As I look again, back to the packet, the interview process, we would provide training to all individuals participating in the interviews. Again, back to that, to what degree are you wanting to involve community stakeholders? Chances are some of the folks that you would invite or nominate, if we go that route, have never been involved in anything like this. So we would provide an orientation meeting, again, reminding them that their role will be advisory. They're not the selection committee, okay? But we would coach them and train them in that role. And if there was somebody in that group that had some experience and could perhaps be the lead person on an interview committee, could facilitate it, that's fine. If they couldn't, again, that's why there would be two of us, so that we would plug into that role. My assumption would be that among you board members, one of you or all of you could rotate among each other in asking the questions. But we would help you develop the questions as well around the characteristics and all of these other things that we've been talking about throughout the evening so far.
So previously, we each picked 3 community members.
I don't
and 3
remember.
staff.
Yeah, something like that.
I think that's what, how we did it. That was our committees.
That's
And we actually had a student committee with you for more support than anything. But I think we picked 3 community members and 3 staff members. And that was our 2 different
We had 2 different
groups.
groups. So we're
It's fine.
sort of familiar. It's
Yeah.
a few years ago.
I got beat up by a student group once.
I mean, they can be, you know. So let's that's where we're at now.
All right, well, and here when we get down to the hiring the superintendent and so forth, we can be involved with you in that to whatever degree you feel comfortable. I know some districts I've worked with have said, thank you very much. Our attorney is going to step in now and work out the rest of the details, and that's also very fine. Attorneys are not experts in setting up expectations and evaluation models in public schools. They usually come in after that's gotten messed up. But anyway, we are in a position to help in that as well if there's a desire and a need for it. Linda, anything else that you would like to add?
The application that's in front of you, I did vet with one of the school attorneys here in New Mexico. So as far as he was concerned, it looked just fine. But again, if you want us to involve your attorney earlier, that's fine, but you will be responsible for any attorney fees that come out of that conversation. Ours will be covered under our fixed price, but the lawyers, as you well know, do not come cheap. So I feel confident.
Complete. This all looks pretty complete right now, just
Okay.
looking at it.
But again, we're more than willing to involve who is your attorney, by the way?
Andy Sanchez.
Okay.
Mr. Perez, would we use Lisa to help?
Our
Make sure
HR
that the
director.
HR director,
Our HR director would be very willing to help.
Oh,
and-
excellent.
will
Great.
make sure that covers all bases from our
They
perspective.
help, yes, but they're the professionals.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, they're just asking whether or not there'd be, you said that you screened it already. Right?
Yes, I did.
So we're just looking to make sure that it's what we consider to be our expectations for that. So we probably will, as you said, get feedback to you on that and go from there.
Great.
Unless something egregious occurs, I would suspect that we would be able to use ourselves and you to find it to modify that application to our collective satisfaction.
Yeah, the only other thing that I have ever seen that, and I almost never even bring it up anymore, is whether board members wanted to visit the district where the candidate worked before and kind of check it out for themselves, whether the person was blowing smoke or was, really what had been presented, but
We did,
you have done that?
yes.
Okay, well, how about that? And the other piece would be if it were an out-of-state candidate, would there be any interest in expenses deferred for an individual to come if they were a finalist? That might be a question that we get, so I want to be prepared to answer it.
I would imagine if he or she is made the final list, we'd want to get him here. We would want to talk to him.
Or we
Or
can
it
go
could
visit them
be-
if they're in Hawaii.
I'm not
Let's-
suggesting that you do. I'm just saying
Let's
that we
get,
might be.
why
asking
don't we
questions.
get to that a little bit later? That's something
Okay,
that. we
that,
can
that,
do.
that's fine. I just wanted to mention it.
But we have done that, and so we did communicate back to the board, full board, on what we found.
But those are the two things that are kind of out there, but not often. Visiting the site of the candidate's current role and expenses if you're going to have a candidate from a distance.
And okay,
Linda, I'm not sure, did we miss anything for tonight?
let's go back to number
Other
2.
questions?
Let's finalize our let's go back to our staff and community engagement. I want to make sure we're clear on whether we're moving ahead to that and when we're going to do that.
Well, we had talked, Dr. Archambault, about that both of us, I think, would be able to come. Was it, what was the 29th? Is that
Yes, next week,
Next Tuesday.
but is that your-
Wednesday. Yeah.
That originally was a work session to work on the budget.
Okay, well,
But,
but
we
we
can-
had
we
something
can-
already scheduled, so we were trying to work within existing meetings, I think, for you. And
Yeah, if we can make that meeting, then I would rather have you come in that same night instead of having them come in another night. So we'll just do both. We'll do him and we'll do
But
the.
in order to do this, we would have to give you a hard date. Linda will get you an instrument to give us feedback on the characteristics and, you know, the forms that we're discussing, how
Qualifications, characteristics.
qualifications and characteristics, so that we can put that together in an advertisement and attachments and so forth, so that the person that's going to apply knows what's expected.
So that's.
And she's gonna send you a survey and you're gonna each individually respond to it, but then we're gonna merge them, and the characteristics that seem to resonate from all of you are gonna be the draft that we bring back for you to bless on the 29th. Is that? Oh, I'm seeing a nod over there. That's okay.
So that's the characteristics and qualifications.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next 29th, we'll do that.
That due to this firm by what date, Mr. President?
Well, Linda, you're gonna be the one that's gonna be under the gun on that. So what would you want
Next
to
Tuesday?
reasonably?
Well, I think that I can probably get the survey out tomorrow to all of you individually. If I could have that back by noon on Monday. Does that sound reasonable? Okay, I'm seeing some,
And do you all use a school email address? Do we have everybody's? And
I will not work. I'm trying it on my day.
That's why I use both of those.
Will not.
Just use one.
But I'll give you.
You know which one to use.
Yeah.
Okay.
if could you coordinate with Ms. Sandoval so that, okay. Thank you so much.
Coordinate that stuff with her.
thank you. I will. Thank you. You and me, girlfriend.
Put Ms. Sandoval on a gift list.
Okay. Immediately.
So we still will have a discussion on that before we, when that.
It's gonna be what we would probably call a final draft, but it's still gonna be called a draft. We can tweak it again next Wednesday and then bless it, I hope.
And then the following day, you should be ready to do the announcements.
Yes.
We try to get it on the streets as soon thereafter as possible.
Okay, fine. So we will not tonight discuss, as we said in the action item B, the qualifications. We only will comply with that's it.
We're already discussing it. There's no action on it anyway. We took it out of action, so we're.
So we're only contracting with them.
Can I just make a plug for the committees? I know how much I'm supposed to get involved or not. But academics is our number one priority, or it's our goal number one. And I believe that the people that are gonna be most directly impacted by the superintendent will be our educational leaders, our instruction, and I think I would like to just throw in a plug that I think it'd be healthy to have at least one of the committees either strongly made up of or has good representation of directors and principals for one of those groups. I believe they are the ones who are gonna make or break the academic push.
So what size of a committee would be manageable for you?
I wouldn't like to see much more than a dozen, but 12 to 15 is probably manageable.
If we did 3 each, that's 15.
Well, just as long as you keep it manageable, because if you get 20 or, it'd just be possible. So.
Right. Exactly.
So. I guess
15 is, I can, 15 is
Yeah,
fine.
15 will do it. Yeah.
15 is fine.
no,
No, 15, one committee of 15.
Yeah.
If we each pick 3
you get
staff
15.
members,
Oh, I got you.
that would be a committee
Yeah.
of staff members.
And
And
then
if we pick 3 community members,
be
that would
15.
be another committee of 15.
So that,
I thought we wanted,
2 committees of 15. That's a good start.
so
Staff could include teachers and admin, is that?
if
what
we
you're-
do 3, we would do
Primarily principals and directors.
one. What are your thoughts?
Teachers need to be in there too, but I'm not.
I'm gonna need you guys a lot for this, because I need folks out in the community, I do.
I like the 3 and 3, 2 committees, I do. And we can. I can pick 3 admin staff in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Just for what it's worth, when I came on, we had, I think, 3 or 4 groups that I interviewed with. One was a community group that included the tribes and local leaders and so on. One group was the administrative staff.
And then did we have a parent group as well?
And we had a parent group with scenarios that they threw at us. And then one group was the board. So I think there was like 4 rotations.
Doesn't matter to us. It's up to you guys. That's what
It
we're
was
doing.
in this building.
So, or if we pick 3 parents, 3 community leaders, or,
That'd be committee of the community.
yeah, and then 3 staff. Or that you'd have 3 committees of 15. That's manageable, correct?
It is.
Absolutely.
3 committees comprised of 15.
15 are in. And would probably end up being 12 because you know.
Because if somebody's gonna have,
That's right.
that always happens. You're right.
Might end up being 10, but at least you could.
Start with 15 and hope for the best.
Are we gonna have enough time, Mr. President, to get this done in the timeline that we're establishing here? That's what I would like.
They are the ones who are gonna facilitate this.
Agreed.
We have to figure out whether it fits into the schedule, as you're saying.
So being quick like we are, this 1 week turnaround the next Wednesday
Yeah.
is unheard of. But we can do it if we'll all commit to doing it, and you might have to.
We're gonna,
Well,
whatever we get, we're gonna use.
The committee stuff doesn't have to be by March 29th.
Right.
No.
The advertisement needs to be,
Us coming up with those folks to suggest needs to come pretty quickly.
Yeah.
pretty quickly, but
Yeah.
their work really won't be until May.
May.
We can communicate with them over the interim and do a training with them or whatever might be necessary. But
Still will take X amount of time.
Yeah.
to get everything done.
And you will consolidate their perspectives, however you do that.
we will work with them because if you've decided you've got different groups, their focus and their line of questioning will be different. We've got question banks that are designed for those different constituencies. And we'll help them hone in on those that would make better sense for here and now.
Max, do you recall, tell me again, the community component? The
We had Fred Rodarte, he was a.
No, I don't mean by the individuals. You said we had 4 groups. So the first group
Community
was,
group, community group with the tribal stakeholders. We had an administrative team that had principals and directors, coordinators. And I believe we had a classified staff group. And then I don't know if it was a parent group alone or parents were involved in one of those other groups, but I remember there were some parents involved.
That's confusing. I can't picture that then.
Yeah, well, it was 4 rotated, we did it all in one morning. Yeah, but it was
I believe we had a community leaders group.
Okay,
maybe that's what it was.
And
That included the parents.
And city council.
Elon, et cetera, Camaro, whatever.
That was your community leaders group.
That makes sense.
We had a parental group, just parents.
Okay,
We had a staff group, and it was classified and certified. Together, we had, that was the three, and then the board was actually the fourth.
Yeah.
Classified and certified, because Amanda Valdez was in there with Josie. Josie's classified,
Yeah,
Amanda was.
So that's, we had a staff group, community leader group, parental group, and the board.
Sounds manageable there.
That is manageable. If you got really lucky, you would find community leaders that were also parents. but-
There's some community leaders that are also staff.
Well, there you go. No, the 3+U is not unusual.
well,
But I'm not trying to talk you into that. I'm just saying,
No, but that's, I'm asking you, that's manageable.
I
Three
believe,
committees of
I
15.
believe so.
Starting with 15, committees of 15. I mean, we're gonna have to do a little work with that. We can all find 3 staff, 3
What would,
parents, 3 community
Comes right
leaders.
here that I could pick off the top of my head.
we would probably want to make sure that someone in one of those committees, and ideally it would be the administrative group, would have someone with the skill set to facilitate that committee, so that if either of the other, or both of the other 2 committees needed support for that process, each of us could take the lead in that committee. And then we'd be sure that we had all 4 committees running smoothly.
why not 4?
Excuse me?
I was thinking of having the building staff, certified staff, teachers, counselors, be a 4th group.
That, I thought that was, oh,
Yeah,
I
but
thought,
you're hard pressed to get 15.
are you gonna separate the teachers and the
Getting
classified?
15 teachers out of the classroom might be tough.
15's not. Oh, out of the classroom, yes.
Oh, that's right. Is
So
that,
we
is that
can- we
a
can
school day?
certify And classified together.
Mixed.
Ouch, I hadn't thought about that, that it's a school day. What's
It's
your
gonna be a
best day of
school day.
school?
And
May 30th. We start ELTP.
okay, so back to it. Fine, again, we're gonna have
Well, you guys, that's a different problem I hadn't thought about.
group one of the groups will be the parent, will be the community leaders and tribal leaders.
Yep.
Yes.
Another group will be parents.
Correct.
The third group would be district leadership. Oh, wait a minute. District leadership,
Just staff. He's suggesting, director.
where do the teachers fit in? If they're gonna have any.
I don't know, pick two directors, leaders and 1 teacher, make it 3 at that way.
Something like that. We would have to impact a lot of the teachers to come to the meeting. Now, it'll only be for 1 day, but still.
It'll be for half a day.
Depending on how many people you invite to interview. If you had 6 finalists, it's not just in the morning. If you had 3 finalists, absolutely, it could be.
Okay,
If you had 4, it would be a late lunch.
so Lorraine, you got a list?
Group 1.
If I may, add something here. If you have, and forgive me, I didn't do the research. Do you have unions in the district? A classified union, a teacher
Yes.
union?
We do.
Okay, so it might be helpful to invite union leadership in to be on one of these committees as well. And they represent a large number of employees. And so it's just something to think about. I'm not trying to talk you into it, but other boards have used their union leadership on
Group
those.
one is parents and community leaders and community and tribal leaders.
Yes.
That's one group. Second group is going to be parents. Third group is going to be district. What? Staff.
Staff.
Staff, yeah.
District staff.
Help you out, make sure.
So who do we have to nominate 3 people
Mhm.
for each of the 3. So we would nominate principals
Whomever you decide you're gonna nominate on that group.
and teachers.
Yeah.
Okay, so it could be district administrators, coordinators, or teachers, or counselors. All staff,
Maintenance employees.
all maintenance employees.
If you get into 5 committees, including yourselves, you have just ensured that you're going into the afternoon. Because each interview is going to be a minimum of an hour. And if you're leaving a gap between the rotation, then you can't do it in the morning. Doesn't matter how many candidates you have, the committees alone will dictate that.
Okay,
So the
ultimately,
board-
there's 4, and the
Fourth.
4th one is the board. Okay, she's
So-
got it down. And
Yep.
she wants when do you guys want the names? It doesn't have to be right away, but
No, that doesn't have to be right away. And I'm glad that Dr. Paul mentioned if you have a CBA agreement, a collective bargaining agreement, I should have thought of that right away. She's absolutely right. If you ignored that president, is AFT or NEA?
AFT.
If you ignored that AFT president, you'd catch it for the rest of.
sure, one of the groups.
Yeah. Should probably.
No, it doesn't make a difference. We'll- Just a matter of course, it'll be another person on there. So whoever's gonna do that.
And if that person is not a rabble rouser and has respect of the other staff, then you solve 2 problems because that person is truly representative of more of those folks.
I'm sure the person will do fine, so it'll be basically, could be 15 plus 1. All right,
Okay, I like it.
Okay,
so
good.
we'll all decide when we want to do that. Maybe we might start getting names for the next 2 weeks, I guess.
Yes, let's throw out April 7th as a due date for the 3 nominees for each of those committees. So do you think that's manageable?
Okay,
And you would try to get a commitment from them, even though we know there's always going to be last minute stuff.
make sure you do the logistics to Lorraine, because I'm terrible at it, and the board would prefer to utilize her services,
Sure.
keep us on top of things.
All right, I will.
Okay, so we're basically trying to resolve one of the important things, which was to engage our community.
Thing to me, that was great.
Yeah, so.
Good
Yeah.
conversation.
Good work.
Let's go back to where we're at. We need to leave in shortly for 7, please. Our task what other tasks do we have? Let's run through them again.
So your first task is to approve our contract. Just saying, we're gonna need to do that. Second is to tell us the qualifications, respond to the survey. What I will send to you, and I'll send a copy to Lorraine also, so that we're all in the loop. What I'll need you to do is just click that link and go take the survey. And that's all you'll have to do. So that's gonna be due by, when did we say? By Monday noon. noon on Monday.
I thought that, shouldn't that be qualifications and characteristics?
Sure, yes. I'm sorry, yes,
So would
qualifications
you put that
and,
into a two-part thing? One is
sure.
qualifications, then secondly are some essential characteristics.
Will do.
That by Monday. This coming-
Right, have it back to finish the survey by noon on Monday.
That's
And
2 and 3. Is there a third?
And then that's the 27th, and then we'll meet with you on the 29th. And then we'll need your nominees for the 3 committees by April 7th. So that gives you about 2.5 weeks to get that organized.
Thank you.
You're
We got 3.
welcome.
Is there anything else, Mr. Sullivan and Linda?
I think you guys did great on those points, really.
Then are we ready for the motions? Are there any actions?
Action on-
Let's do the first one. Action on B, consideration of approval, selection, and retention of NSBA Superintendent Search Services of Tom Sullivan and Linda Paul. And that's it.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion is made by Richard Jones and seconded by Robert Hayes to approve the contract of the contracting selection and retention of NSBA Superintendent Search Services of Tom Sullivan and Linda Paul for the proposal. Roll call.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Richard Jones.
Aye.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Garashambo.
Yes. Motion carries. And
Thank you.
include this, Linda, include this, Linda Lorraine, include this in as part of the board minutes, that this is the contract, and we need to know whether there's any contractual agreement you desire. Please talk with her and.
Thank you. Thank you for approving that. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. We are really excited about working with you to find a wonderful leader for your next superintendent. So yes, I will work closely with Ms. Sandoval. I will draft the contract based on the particulars in that PowerPoint, but I'll put it more into a contract form so that I'll send that to her. It'll have the exact same data, but a little more organized, and then we'll be good to go.
And, would you, before we sign off, I'd like to see
Of course,
I would
absolutely.
actually be the one to sign off the contract.
Yes. Yes.
When, you tell me when it's ready. Do we need C? I kind of don't think we do.
C or E, which one do you want? Yes.
It's consideration of approval to delegate and authorize board president to execute retention agreement and to make adjustments to same and direct consultants on behalf of the board. Do you wish to do that, or?
That's already your role.
I was gonna say, that's already your job.
Which would be happy.
So you don't need, okay, so
Sounds great.
based upon my powers of.
So fast.
There'll be no action on C. It's expected, I guess.
Yeah, no, just need a motion.
No motion on it. Anything else? Any wrap-up statements, Mr. Sullivan, Dr. Paul?
Well, I would just echo what Dr. Paul said. It's a transition period. Dr. Prather has been involved in this from the outset, and I think he's put together a good model that Mr. Guillen and your organization have embraced, and we want to do right by it. We'd like to see it continued. We think it's a good service for the state, and I saw Mr. Hayes say to Mr. Jones, boy, I hope we can get a good candidate. We share that hope. We really do.
Yes.
We can't, Dave. You can't go.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more in that sense. I've known Max for a long time, as has Dr. Paul, and you guys have been fortunate and stable, and you should be proud of that. And we hope we can help you guys build on the good work that Max has done. Thank you so much. And that you guys have done as a team.
Extend our best wishes to
That's, you said it well. Tom. That's great. Thank you all. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you. And extend our wishes back to Dr. Prather. He was with us for several months
Oh,
and it was quite a lengthy process. And it was quite organized and we extend our greetings to him and our appreciation for his efforts with
I
us in
spent
the
some
past.
time with him Sunday.
Okay.
And he knew we were coming this way and he said to say hello to all you guys as well.
So, motion to adjourn.
Before we adjourn.
Yes, sir.
I would ask you please get with Ms. Daly and reiterate how important these next little timelines are.
Thank you. Will
Since
do.
it's being here, please. And then now I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Motion is made and seconded to adjourn. Roll call.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Richard Jones.
All right.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Dr. Guyer Shambo.
Meeting's adjourned at 7:03. And I did communicate with all of you. And I updated you all. Reminded you that it's 5:30. And I will continue to do that. So, okay. And I didn't reach out for you. If anything happens, let us know. You've done that before. You.
I'm going to say goodnight, everyone. You have a good evening. Tom, be safe on the road. And I'll be there in person next week.
Can I give you a call?
We're going to two-part.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, give me a jingle.
The second part would be
It's
the,
okay. It's all right. It's all good.
Over there.
Send it to.
it's going to be at Laguna Acoma High School.
Meeting. We're gonna have a meeting.
Next
Will not be here.
So it'll be, you don't have to drive as far.
15 short amount.
It'll cut 20 minutes off.
So I'll probably have to.
Nice.
That's fine.
We'll do it.
And we'll send you the information on that. She will.
Thank you.
Said that.
I will send you the agenda.
Would have been a hard time for you to steer me in if I was already.
No,
I'm not gonna lie, I've spent about 30